the tactics comes the play.
What's he going to do? Oh!
After the play comes the goal.
Could be the match winner from Lionel Messi. Ronaldo! Aguero, they'll do it. It's a terrific goal.
After the goal comes the uproar. It's sports on 32 FM 94.9.
A great afternoon to everyone who has joined us on today's edition of the show. The program is Scoreboard Reloaded, right on 32 FM 94.9. Lots of interesting stories, updates, making it around today in the exciting world of sports. But the biggest for this hour came that's from the Etihad Stadium, home of Manchester City, where their loyal servant, talking about Kevin De Bruyne, the Belgian captain, well, he has decided that once the season is over, he is going to be leaving the citizens after 10 solid years. Well, remember that Guardiola joined Manchester City and met Kevin De Bruyne in the setup. And then you tell how loyal Kevin De Bruyne is to Manchester City, winning everything available, especially that coveted UEFA Champions League title, defeating Inter Milan in the finals, even though De Bruyne was unable to play the 90 minutes in that encounter. But then you talk about the level, the status of Kevin De Bruyne, where he has won 16 trophies, or he won 16 trophies. Remember that one is still available for the citizens to win this season, and that is the English FA Cup. Since he joined from Wolfsburg in the year 2015, 6 Premier League titles, 4 on a row, a treble also. Well, you could tell that he has been part of Pep Guardiola's winning team when we talk about his reigns as a Manchester City manager. But on the show this afternoon, we take reactions from the head coach, talking about Pep Guardiola himself, speaking about the level of relationship he has with that's Kevin De Bruyne, and also if they are indeed going to have a statue for Kevin De Bruyne outside the Etihad Stadium. Remember that we have that of Kun Aguero outside the Etihad Stadium, but can we have another that's talking about Kevin De Bruyne? Not only Pep Guardiola, we would also get the reactions of a Blessing for who we're also speaking as regards Kevin De Bruyne, who really Kevin De Bruyne is or was in the world of football. How can you describe the Belgian midfielder? And then outside the football stories, we talk about basketball stories where it is all about the Rivers Upas of Nigeria, and they are Nigeria's sole representative. Can they better off their performance from the Basketball African League that went down last year? They're in Morocco this year. Can they do so better? Well, Coach Ogo, there is no Will Perry, but then for the players who are there at this point, can they do the unexpected or the expected, where they can get better than what they did last season? So definitely the show this afternoon promises to be an exciting one, where we take a look at all of this and make it around today in the exciting world of sports. But before I take a listen to, before we join a Blessing, let's take a listen to the words of Manchester City's manager speaking about Pep Guardiola, of course, saying it is a sad day.
Sad day. A happy day for the fact that the pleasure personally that we live, or I live this time with him. What he gave us, all of us, his humanity, and of course, don't necessarily tell his influence in our success in the last decade. That will be impossible to imagine, without him. And it's a day because, of course, it's part of us, he's living. So when Vincent left, or Sergio left, or David Silva left, and these players like have been contribution. And I will say more names. So these examples 3. Of course, it's a time that it's a sad day. So, but still we have 10 games and hopefully 11 and 6 games at home that we can enjoy with our fans, and he will get, I'm pretty sure, the love and the recognition that all of us, fans of course, that he deserves.
Today, listen to the words of Pep Guardiola. They're speaking about the relationship he has with Kevin De Bruyne. And of course, you also listen to that they have 9-10 games to play. And if they can play one more, that's them getting into the finals of the English FA Cup, where they are in the semi-finals, are set to go down. That's later this month. But joining me on the show far away from Lagos, I'm very sure she's in Lagos, is a Blessing Afowowe right here on the show with me. Good afternoon, Blessing.
Good afternoon, SAMIES. What if I am in the US or in the UK right now? At the press conference at Manchester City. Okay. But hey, it's good to be back on the show with you again.
There you listened about the speech by Pep Guardiola, and also that big announcement by Bruno himself, saying at the end of this season, after 10 years, he's going to be leaving the citizens. What do you have to say about that?
It's first off, I do not think it is surprising for many followers of the game, lovers of the Premier League particularly, and maybe fans of Manchester City. It was the inevitable. It was expected at some point. I mean, if you look at how things have found out for him in the last couple of years, it seems like it was a nosedive. It felt like he had plateaued. He had reached his peak, and at that point, the question was, what next? What were we to expect from this man, Kevin De Bruyne yet again? And I think his unavailability over going last year, to the most part of this year, in a way might have contributed to how Manchester City, have been performing. How poor, their form has been, of late. So I wouldn't say it's surprise really to hear, Kevin De Bruyne come out to tell the entire world, what, at the end of the season, decided he's going to, call it quits right there. Is all for Manchester City, and particularly knowing how he came from. I think they bought him from the German league.
Wolfsburg.
Wolfsburg, exactly. Yes, I was trying to remember the name of the team now. Wolfsburg. Considering they got him from Wolfsburg after what had initially been his struggle, while he was at
Chelsea,
just a couple of years earlier. It was such a struggle for him, but being able to just come back there, and with the help of Pep Guardiola, he was able to really build something out of him, making him the focal point for Manchester City. For me, it's just so amazing how how far he's come, and he would definitely go down as a great legend of Manchester City, and maybe to an extent of the Premier League as well. Some have said, is it the greatest midfielder to come out of the Premier League? I know that's going to definitely be up for debate for many people, because you've got to consider a lot of options, a lot of parameters for you to call him the greatest. But again, knowing how he plays, particularly the ability to pick out teammates with just accurate passes, the assist, just creating chances upon chances upon chances. I do not think we're going to see another player with the kind of profile that the man Kevin De Bruyne has, in another couple of years. But yes, it's expected for me. Looking at how things have been over the last few months, I just knew this might just be, the end of the road for him. But hey, the question is what next for him, and how Manchester City will navigate. Well, City, you could say maybe they've already been trying to navigate life without Kevin De Bruyne himself, because for games where he has not started just 9 games this season in the Premier League, and for games where he has not been available, there's been other players who have played there. Even though Kovacic, I thought, has not done exactly well, in that holding that midfield together, even with Rodri's injury as well. Kovacic also trying to cover for Rodri and whatnot. But yeah, it's I don't think it's a sad day for football. And maybe for Manchester City fans, it could be a sad day, but this man will go down as a loyal servant of the club and also a great legend, for the Premier League.
Well, a loyal servant, you are saying there for, that's Kevin De Bruyne. And I mentioned that when he joined Manchester City, he was the only, or he's still the only player left that Guardiola met within the setup of Manchester City. You mentioned the likes of Sergio Kun Aguero, you mentioned the likes of Wilfred Bony, and lots of players like that, Vincent Kompany. All of these guys, they've left this side and they've gone on to maybe achieve greater things, or maybe just settle for less. But this is Kevin De Bruyne. Where is that eye for a pass? And that's, maybe is one of his biggest strengths. But in the Premier League now, I want to ask you, where are you going to really rank Kevin De Bruyne? Before we take a listen to Guardiola's, maybe one more speech from Guardiola speaking about Pep Guardiola. But in the history of Manchester City, okay, let's put it as that, in the history of Manchester City, where would you rank Kevin De Bruyne?
Definitely one of the very best, if not the best, to come out of that club. I mean, I call, when you were having your intro a couple minutes ago, you talked about how Sergio Kun Aguero has got a statue outside of the stadium. So yes, if they do decide to build one for him, for Kevin De Bruyne, it will be absolutely deserving, and I don't think anybody has the right to raise any eyebrows as towards that, because it was such, he had done so well. But where do I rank him in, with Manchester City? Definitely the top of the top. I think he scored over 100 goals in over 300 appearances or thereabout. That's for a midfielder.
106 goals.
Exactly. Does he have more goals than Yaya Toure? I doubt it. I doubt he has more goals than Yaya Toure. But I think I'm going to pull just right up there, in terms of the greats, alongside the likes of Sergio Kun Aguero and of course Yaya Toure. But when it comes to the Premier League, again, jury's out. I think he has the most assists since he joined Manchester City, amongst all midfielders, and I think he's also broken the record that was held by Thierry Henry, around assist or thereabouts. So, see, it's always going to be up for debate, but I do believe he's right up there as one of the best midfielders in the Premier League.
Well, that's for blessing. Regarding Kevin De Bruyne as one of the best midfielders there in the English Premier League. But one more time, let's take a listen to the words of Guardiola, highlighting the influence Kevin De Bruyne has had in the changing room throughout the 10 years.
10 years you spent here at the club. You've spoken a little bit about the impact that he's had on the club, those who have played with him, the fans. What have you learnt from him as a human being?
His assists, his goals, his vision in the final third that is so difficult to replace. Because he's not, everyone can make two actions of assists, but during how many years and how many games, that makes him unique. At the end, this is a business. The players have to perform well, the manager have to perform well, and we know that any person, can discuss that his performance during this decade have been outstanding. So we won a lot of trophies, and have been involved in every single one. So that's why always, I think we remember him like, he's part of this club. I've seen in his statement he has done in the club, he said to him, the doors are open for the rest of his life. So whatever we want to do here in our part, so it's part of the family of this club. So the impact of some players transcend just even what you have done on the pitch. So, and Kevin is one of them.
All right, you ask me the influence of Kevin De Bruyne. That's in a game of football. Well, definitely is a big one, and you have to look out for that. But what's next for Kevin De Bruyne when the season comes to an end? Is he going to go to Saudi Arabia, or is he going to go to America to trade his game at the age of 33? Let's see how that goes. But we go on this break. When we come back, we'll take a reaction from Blessing as regards the game that went on yesterday, and what are the chase for that the 4th position in the English Premier League. And looks like at this point in time, before we talk about the Basketball Africa League, where the River Supers, Nigeria's representative, are set to be in action.
Stay tuned to 32 FM 94.9.
Yọ lérè pé kí o dárúkọ eré ìdíje géèmù mánigbàgbé tó dángájá. Bẹ̀tánù ni ìdáhùn rẹ̀ lọ́jọ́kọ́jọ́. Ó yá tara ṣàṣà kí ìwọ náà bá wọn jẹ àǹfààní nínú géèmù alárinrin tó fanimọ́ra ní ìpele pẹ̀lú ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà igba 200,000 owó ìkíni káàbọ̀ àti àwọn ẹ̀bùn mìíràn bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Bẹ̀tánù ayò ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ báyìí. Forí pípẹ́ tayò yìí o. Ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ látòrí ọmọ ọdún 18 lọ sókè. Alájọṣepọ̀ ẹgbẹ́ Aston Villa ni wá.
Feel better about your life.
32 FM 94.9, the antidote to depression.
All right, welcome back. The program is still Scoreboard Reloaded right here on 32 FM 94.9. Yes, we used the first 15 minutes to discuss about Kevin De Bruyne, what an impact he has had with the citizens. 10 years, and of course, 16 trophies for himself and also for the entire team. Since or in the span of that 10 years. But we go straight into the Premier League proper now. Yesterday, a game of football went down there at the Stamford Bridge. It was a London derby between Chelsea and Tottenham Football Club. The first leg ended 4-3 there at the Tottenham Stadium. But yesterday, Argentine international Enzo Fernandez was the one responsible for that goal that secured a maximum 3 points for Chelsea Football Club. But the game had its own controversies. Maybe a lot of people were talked about chalking off goals, making the right decision, offside calls, and all of that. But then for me, you ask me, the game lived up to its expectation. Tottenham against Chelsea Football Club. It had everything. Goals are being ruled out. But it was just about a 3-pointer for Chelsea Football Club. And from that 3-pointer they got yesterday, it has taken them to yet another level there in the English Premier League, where they are fourth on the standing, displacing Manchester City, who were in action before them. And they presently have 52 points compared to Manchester City's 51. It's all about the race to qualify for the UEFA Champions League. And then why am I counting out only the 4th position? Because take a look at Liverpool. They have 8 games left to play, and they are likely, or they have the 99.9% chance to win the English Premier League title with 73 points. Arsenal Football Club, 61 points. Nottingham Forest, 57 points. And then you talk about Chelsea, 52 points. Manchester City, 51 points. Newcastle, 50 points. Aston Villa, 48 points. Brighton and Hove Albion, 47 points. It's all about the race to qualify for the UEFA Champions League. What a result that was for Chelsea Football Club yesterday. A blessing. And how would this impact their next 8 games in the English Premier League?
Honestly, it's far to finish up until the very last day. No one is safe. Let me put it that way. Even with Nottingham Forest as well, you've got to be very careful. It was a win that Chelsea needed to get, even for themselves personally, because it felt like they had been slacking of late. And Cole Palmer particularly seems like suddenly gone cold. You know, I know they call him Cole Palmer in terms of the nickname, but he hasn't really done so much since the turn of the year. So they needed that statement win, and what a way for it to come against a London, rival. Speaking of the London derby yesterday, important victory for them. Also knowing that Manchester City are breathing down their neck. I think it's just about 2 points or thereabout, or even 3 points. Just separating City, who are in 5th, and Chelsea, who are right there in 4th position. Disappointing for Tottenham, I have to say. Ange Postecoglou came into the league and was very, very boisterous about always winning a title in his second season. But that's definitely not going to happen this time around.
Well, it's looking like they are still in the Europa League. Just there.
I mean, while I understand that it could actually happen, but you see, the way they've been playing over since I think late last year or thereabout, it's very difficult for you to just see something out of the blues happen for them in that regard. And then again, I thought the kind of opponent they've played in the Europa League maybe not so tough opponents, here and there. Because how do you explain winning those games and then you get back to the Premier League and then you are losing points to the seemingly smaller teams that you should be beating on the norms. So it leaves a lot to be desired of Tottenham there, right there. I mean, just languishing in the bottom half of the table alongside Manchester United. I mean, birds of a feather if you want to see it. But yes, it is really disappointing for Tottenham. I don't know how they're going to find a way, around this, because again, Europa League, that's probably the only way that they get to be on the continent next season. So if they get to win that, because via the traditional route, that seems to be done and dusted already. It might be difficult for them to get up there into maybe top 6 or top 7, as the case may be. Maybe get to the conference league. But if they have to win the trophy, maybe that can happen. But yeah, it's been very, very poor run of form for them. No thanks to injuries as well. We have to also cut them some slack.
I was about to say that.
They've been dealt ruthlessly.
Especially their centre-back pairing, first-choice centre-back pairing and goalkeeper.
Exactly. I think this guy has been out for a bit as well. One of their best midfield acquisitions. I'm trying to remember. Kulusevski at some point. Exactly, they had to bring in this young star from the under 18, under 17, the Premier League 2, what have you. Brought in this man from Borussia Dortmund. Is it Borussia Dortmund or
Leipzig?
Matthias Tel rather from Bayern.
Matthias
Bayern Munich rather.
Matthias Tel.
Exactly. And he's struggled to hit the ground running, if you want to put it that way. So maybe injuries has contributed to where they found themselves. But then again, it's been really disappointing season for them. For Chelsea, on the other hand, they needed that win and they needed it badly. And it's good to see that they've gotten, Nicholas Jackson back. But again, at this stage of the season, when one player returns, you will almost likely find another player going away, to the physio table. But I just think it's all set up for what will be an amazing, run in to the end of the Premier League later next month.
All right, for Chelsea fans who are listening to us now, the reason why I've said that, how important was that victory for Chelsea yesterday, because you take a look at their next 8 games in the league. They are playing against the Brentford, against Ipswich, against the Fulham, against Everton, against Liverpool, against Newcastle, Manchester United, and of course Nottingham Forest on match day 38. So it talks about the difficulty in the fixtures at Chelsea Football Club and they have, and can they really show their grit they're in, ensuring they qualify for the UEFA Champions League. They win the Europa Conference League. It is qualification, automatic qualification to the UEFA Europa League. But then they want to make themselves a good name for this season, and that's why they should qualify for the UEFA Champions League automatically. But let's leave our football stories now and go straight into that's the Basketball African League, where if there is just one thing that the Rivers Supers under the guidance of our coach, that's Odadu, they would want to do this year 2025 is better their performance last year. Last year they finished 3rd, but this year, what do you expect from the Rivers Supers?
Well, no 2 seasons are always alike, like we say in sports generally, not just in football. No 2 seasons are always alike. I feel like it might be a little difficult for Rivers Supers this time around, because you look at the quality of the players that they had in their ranks last season. I'm not sure they have all of those players to call upon.
Will Perry is the biggest one.
Will Perry, yes. Kevin Amayo particularly. Amayo particularly, I thought Amayo was absolutely impressive in the last round of BAL.
But he's making a return.
And after that, yes, he's making a return. Yes. Yeah. But I feel like the what I was trying to point out is the fact that I remember after the last bout, he got like a 10-day contract to play with Sacramento Kings. I think it's their G League team or thereabout. But again, if you're struggling to hold it down right there, I mean, I'm just thinking to myself, maybe there could be some form of unsettlement, maybe on his part. But if he's able to put that behind him and then get into, good shape, the right mental space, it could maybe help wheel the team to victory. But they've definitely been missing Will Perry, who was a huge influence last season. I know they've also brought in some, Americans, quote unquote, or foreigners, if I can put it that way, to also help their cause. But they've got to find an intersection where these new players that are bringing on board are able to gel. They're able to synchronize very well and, work together for a common goal at the end of the day. But outside of playing personnel, one thing I think we should also look into, one thing I think we should also consider is the fact that for the case of what's going on in Port Harcourt in Rivers State with management, we hope that would not be affecting, because remember, Rivers Supers are a state-owned team, founded and backed by the state. So if they're not getting funds, that could be an issue. But I'm just hoping all of that will not eventually affect what their product will be like. But again, no two seasons are ever the same. I believe Bowl episode 5 will be much more tougher than last season. But hey, can they even get to the semi-finals or the finals? That's the big question this time around.
Well, let's see how that goes. But still talking about the Basketball African League, and that's under Coach Odadu. He believes that the Rivers Upas are even better team with the replacements they've made this year. He said, we have a new point guard in Maxi. We have Putney, who's almost 7 foot tall and can shoot the lights out of every court. We also have Madut, who I think is an upgrade of what we had last year. Then talk about what we had last year, Devin Ake, and the experiences of John Wilkins. Well, these guys are not going to be there this season for the Rivers Upas. But then let's cross our fingers and see what their first encounter would actually be like. Talking about the Rivers Upas in their game. Well, remember that the Basketball African League is set to begin. That's later tomorrow. Well, I think it's going to end later next week also. But then let's see what is going to be of the Rivers Upas. But we move away from that also and then talk about what we expect this weekend. But then before that, it's all about the Formula One. Yes, 2 races into the season, but there was one major news that broke out last week in the world of Formula One, and it's concerning the Red Bull. What happened within that's constructors? We're talking about Red Bull. Liam Lawson, this man was displaced while he was relegated once again. And then you talk about the man who definitely was called to replace him. That's Yuki Tsunoda, who he has been told to be as close to Max Verstappen as possible. Remember that the Japanese Grand Prix is set to go down this weekend, and what we have from the Japanese Grand Prix is that, the first practice session that went down, that's in the early hours of today, added that for the McLaren, they are still doing so well for themselves, and that is Lando Norris. Can this really just be the year for Lando Norris? I know it's too early in the Formula One calendar year, but can this just be from what he has been doing? He has an 8-point lead over Max Verstappen at this point, but for Lando Norris and the McLaren, can this just be their year where they are blowing everyone apart? All right, just before we leave, we have games set to go down across different centers in England, in Spain, in Germany, in France, and also in Italy. Blessing, where would your side be? And also in Nigeria, not to forget, on Sunday in Ibadan, we would have the Oluyole Warriors face off against Ikorodu City. But across Europe top 5 leagues and also maybe on the Nigerian scene, where would your sides be? Blessing.
I'll be having my sights on the La Liga game between Barcelona and Real Betis. I'm looking at two teams with two teams who are in great form coming into this game. Betis, since they brought in Anthony, they seems to be on a different rise entirely. They've won each of their last 4 games in the La Liga. They're up to 5th as well, knocking on the Champions League places. I think that's one to look forward to. And also knowing the dynamics in terms of the battle for this La Liga title up there between Barcelona and Real Madrid. I think that's also one that I'll be looking forward to. And then on Monday, I've got my eyes on Bologna and Napoli. Bologna have also been on a great run of form. I mean, unbeaten. In the past about 5 games, they have not. They've only conceded 3 goals in those 5 games, and they've won each of those 5. I think it's also going to be some sort of battle against the Napoli as well. So I've got my eyes on those 2 games going into the weekend.
Well, thank you so much, Blessing, for joining us on the show this afternoon. Well, all right, I am SAMIES, your sports captain. Until we meet again tomorrow, the BBC would be here for the commentary, but we will be here on Monday to discuss about everything that happened there in the exciting world of sport over the course of the weekend. Up next, coming up on the next hour, that is the news at 4. I am SAMIES, your sports captain. Do enjoy the rest of the day, and bye for now.
Whether it's a cackle